Hello, it's John Heaton, and tonight I'm going to review this album, The Beatles' Abbey Road, the last release from September the 26th, 1969, and the last recorded album, not the last released one, which was Let It Be, but this is, if push comes to shove, probably my favourite Beatles album along with the White Album. So those two are my favourite. And it was recorded in a period of great acrimony within the group. They were basically splitting up, and it's a bit of a miracle that they managed to record this album, basically, given all the problems they had. And it really doesn't show, none of the difficulties show, because when it came to music they just came together and produced a fantastic album. And obviously this is an iconic cover. They had plans to go to Mount Everest, of all places, to record the cover, and then Paul came up with the ingenious idea of just walking over the zebra crossing. A wonderfully simple idea, and it's produced this iconic image. And on the back, the Abbey Road street sign from further down the road, which didn't last long because fans kept on nicking it. And they've superimposed the Beatles sign as if it was a street sign, and it looks great. So this is, as an album cover, this is up there as well. But anyway, back to the music. It starts off with Come Together, which is probably in my top 5 Beatles tracks, John Lennon track. And the thing I like about this track, and probably about this whole album, is the musicianship is just superb from all four. Paul's bass is superb, and he creates a great effect on the keyboard, the swampy piano effect. George produces some tasteful guitar, and Ringo's drumming is just great throughout, particularly on the coda of this song. So, and then the next song is Something from George, which is one of the best songs he's ever written. And again, the musicianship is superb. I mean, I don't know if John actually played on this track, but Paul's bass playing is sublime, and Ringo's drumming is second to none again. And they were on top form when they recorded this whole album. They were on top form in Let It Be as well, but the difference between that album and this one is George Martin was back in the producer's chair full-time, as opposed to sort of part-time Let It Be, and the White Album took a bit of a back seat to George Martin. But on this one they asked him to come back and produce an album like they used to, and it shows. It really makes a difference. The Let It Be album itself was left in an unfinished state, and frankly I can understand why the group decided not to release it in that state, because frankly it's rather amateurish, and Phil Spector was later called in to clean it up, and the finished album, which came out the following year, is a lot more palatable than the rough one, in my opinion. So, back to the album. The third track, Maxwell's Silver Hammer, it's come in for a bit of stick over the years. I personally love it. I think the melody is thoroughly infectious. The words are amusing. Kind of wish Paul would play this one in concert, actually. I know John and George didn't care for it, but so horses for courses, I guess. I love it. Oh Darling from Paul again. Very decent track. Very good vocal as well. This is a very difficult one to sing if you've ever tried it. Very high. And Paul came into the studio several times first thing in the morning and tried out the vocal on this track before he got it right. Side 1 finishes with John's track I Want You, She's So Heavy, one of the first songs he wrote about Yoko. It's a great number, and again the band playing on this album is superb. George's guitar work with John on the coda is brilliant. Paul's bass playing is just excellent, sort of producing counter melodies all over the place. Then moving to side 2, it opens with George's second track, Here Comes the Sun, and this is one of those tracks which I don't think I've met anyone who doesn't like this track. I think one or two books have said you need to have a bit of a sweet tooth, but I don't think you do. I think it's a very uplifting summer day song written in Eric Clapton's garden during all the Beatles business squabbles, and it was a thoroughly nice experience to be sitting in his friend's garden and writing this number, which was a release from all the pressure, and it really shows. Really great words as well on this one. Because from John is next, gorgeous 3-part harmony, which was something that they hadn't really used too much on the previous few albums. So the last time I think they used it was on the B-side, Yes It Is, and of course on This Boy, an early B-side from '63, they used it, but on the White Album and Sgt. Pepper there isn't too much 3-part harmony, so it was very nice to see this this track. Well, it wasn't around at the time, but anyway, it's nice to see it on this album, a return of the 3-part, which they do so well. And if you check out the vocals of this without the instrumentation, just hear the vocals on their own. I think it's on the internet. It's just incredible. You Never Gave Me Your Money is the start of the long medley from Paul. It's a great track. 2 or 3 different bits joined together. I know John Lennon was a little bit dismissive of this one in his final interview, his Playboy interview, but I don't know why, because it really works as a song, and it's one of Paul's top 20 songs ever, in my opinion. Sun King, great harmonies again, nice words, uplifting, nice use of the Moog synthesizer on this album, by the way, which was quite a new instrument, and George Harrison in particular was an expert on that, and that pops up here and there on the album to nice effect. Mean Mr. Mustard and Polythene Pam from John, both great little tracks. John was dismissive of this album, saying it was mainly Paul's baby, and he didn't much like the rock opera on side 2, but I don't know, I guess he was in a bad mood when he said that, because I'm sure he'd come to appreciate it. Had he lived, I'm sure he would have revised his opinion of this album. I mean, apart from anything else, he contributes a lot to the medley. Sun King, Mean Mr. Mustard, Polythene Pam are all his, and 2 of the great songs on side 1, Come Together and I Want You, are his. So I know Paul, everyone says that the long medley is masterminded by Paul, but if you look at it track by track, he's only singing just over half of it. So anyway, She Came In Through the Bathroom Window, a great number from Paul, great bass line as well. He really goes to town on the bass on this album. I don't think he's done it so effectively ever since, because all the way through this he's really going for the melodic bass lines. It's just brilliant. Golden Slumbers, really nice piano song from Paul. What can I say? This is wonderful. Carry That Weight. Nice, with hindsight, very perceptive line. Boy, you're going to carry that weight a long time. Carry the weight of being a Beatle for the rest of your life, even though if the band split up. Even though the band were just split up shortly after this album, they would carry that tag with them, but Paul says he didn't mean that at the time, so with hindsight it certainly looks that way, but anyway. The End closes the album, and this is notable for 2 reasons really. The guitar solos are shared. Paul goes first, George second, John third. They just play a couple of bars each, 2 or 3 times, and it's just amazing. And then Ringo, the one and only drum solo on a Beatles album, and he does it here, and it's very effective. And then the album ends with the immortal line from Paul, and in the end the love you take is equal to the love you make, which even John was very complimentary about. Very cosmic line. So, people have accused this album of being not the Beatles' most honest record. I'm not quite sure what that means. If it means it didn't sound miserable because the band was about to split up and surely the album should have reflected that, then I think it's a bit of a pointless argument, really. I think they wanted to go out on a high. I'm not even convinced that they knew that this was the last album that they were going to make, because in the interviews around that time, in the following 6 months as well, all of them certainly publicly kept the door open. And I think, had they not had the business squabbles with Alan Klein, etc., that they may well have continued to do Beatles albums through the first half of the 70s, as well as doing solo work. I like to think that anyway, but that wasn't what happened. So this is their last recorded album, and by many it's considered to be one of their best, certainly in my top two. So check it out if you haven't heard it. Thank you for watching. Please remember to subscribe if you haven't already, like and comment. See you next time.